But it was a joke that jolted me. Jolted me in the sense that it got me thinking.
Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle recently drew worldwide attention with a major announcement following a heartbreaking discovery that challenged his strength and leadership. Amid rising controversies and increasing scrutiny over his position on critical matters, his revelation left many wondering about its implications for his legacy and the Church's direction. Let's explore the details behind this development. Luis Antonio Tagle was born on June 21, 1957, as the eldest child in a devout Catholic family. His father, Manuel Tapacio Tagle, was of Tagalog heritage, while his mother, Milagros Gokim, had Chinese-Filipino ancestry. Before dedicating herself fully to her family, Milagros worked at Equitable PCI Bank. Tagle's roots on his father's side trace back to Imus, Cavite, where his grandfather, Florencio, was part of the Spanish Christian Principalia, a social elite before the Philippine Revolution of 1896. During World War II, Florencio was wounded in a bomb explosion, prompting Tagle's grandmother to support the family by running a local diner. Tagle's education began at St. Andrew's School in Parañaque, Rizal, where he completed his elementary and high school education by 1973. Inspired by his connections with priests, he felt drawn to religious life and entered the Jesuit-run San Jose Seminary, which paved the way for his academic journey at Ateneo de Manila University. There, he earned a Bachelor of Arts in Pre-Divinity in 1973 and later obtained a Master of Arts in Theology from the Loyola School of Theology. Between 1987 and 1991, he pursued a doctorate in sacred theology at the Catholic University of America under the guidance of Joseph A. Komonchak. His dissertation focused on episcopal collegiality in the teaching and practice of Paul VI. Komonchak regarded Tagle as one of the best students he had encountered in over 40 years, suggesting that Tagle could have become Asia's leading theologian had he not chosen to become a bishop. Tagle also studied at the Institute of Pope Paul VI University and was awarded honorary degrees by Catholic Theological Union and La Salle University. In addition to being fluent in Tagalog, English, and Italian, he could also read Spanish, French, Korean, and Latin. Tagle was ordained in the Diocese of Imus on February 27, 1982, beginning his ministry as an associate pastor at San Agustin Parish in Mendez Núñez, Cavite. He held various roles, including spiritual director and rector of the Diocesan Seminary of Imus. After studying in the United States, he returned to serve as Episcopal Vicar for Religious and as parish priest at Nuestra Señora del Pilar Cathedral Parish. He also taught theology at San Carlos Seminary and Divine Word Seminary in Tagaytay. In 1997, Pope John Paul II appointed Tagle to the International Theological Commission, where he worked alongside Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger. He was also part of the editorial team for the History of Vatican II project from 1995 to 2001. What kind of leader is Tagle, and why have some questioned his leadership? What controversies lie at the heart of the current debates? Tagle's impact extended far beyond his administrative and theological expertise. Known for his compassion and sharp intellect, he reflected the values promoted by Pope Francis. He consistently worked to uplift the poor and marginalized, showing a deep commitment to meaningful, practical change. One of his most notable projects was in sub-Saharan Africa, where many Catholic communities faced extreme economic hardship. Rather than offering only words of hope, Tagle implemented real, tangible solutions to help those in need. Under his leadership, the Vatican collaborated with local communities to secure funding for schools and vocational training programs, establishing long-term solutions for improving lives. His efforts went beyond easing poverty, they also focused on strengthening faith. These initiatives highlighted the Church's deep dedication to meeting both spiritual and material needs. In Myanmar, a country plagued by political and ethnic unrest, Tagle played a key role in promoting reconciliation. He recognized that lasting peace required more than political resolutions, it demanded interfaith dialogue and understanding. By bringing together Catholic and Buddhist leaders, he helped create a platform for unity and mutual respect, offering hope to divided communities. His distinct approach to cultural integration further set him apart. Tagle supported the integration of indigenous music, art, and language into Catholic liturgy. He viewed the Church not as an outsider to cultures but as a vital part of them. His perspective allowed communities to practice their faith authentically, deepening their connection with the Church. As president of Caritas Internationalis, Tagle spearheaded the Share the Journey campaign to highlight the struggles faced by migrants and refugees. His commitment went beyond speeches. He visited refugee camps in Lebanon and Jordan, speaking directly with displaced individuals and listening to their experiences. His compassion showed in how he used his influence to amplify their voices and remind the world of their shared dignity. Tagle's leadership extended to urgent global issues such as climate change, poverty, and migration. He encouraged partnerships between the Vatican and secular organizations, prioritizing meaningful action over words. His vision was of a church that stood firmly for justice and worked alongside the global community to address systemic problems. In 2019, Pope Francis appointed Tagle to head the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples, placing him at the center of the Church's missionary work. This position gave him the responsibility of spreading Catholic teachings, especially in areas where the Church was rapidly expanding. His close relationship with Pope Francis, rooted in shared values and trust, led many to see him as a potential future pope. Tagle's leadership mirrored the humility and approachability of Pope Francis, helping him connect with people from all walks of life. Whether engaging in theological discussions or sharing meals with refugees, he demonstrated a warmth that resonated globally. His rise in the Church was driven by his unwavering dedication to compassion, inclusion, and confronting major world challenges. However, Tagle's journey has not been without obstacles. Behind the praise are complex challenges that test his ability to guide the Church through difficult times. So why does opposition to Tagle persist? Is there more to his story, or does it stem from speculation about his potential succession of Pope Francis? Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle is often mentioned as a strong candidate in discussions about the next pope. His empathetic leadership and worldwide recognition have earned him praise, yet some experts caution that his path is not assured. While his close alignment with Pope Francis has brought him honor, it also presents challenges. Analysts suggest that Tagle must establish a distinct identity beyond being seen as an Asian Francis to gain broader support among the College of Cardinals. There are three major hurdles that could impede his election. First, Tagle faces strong competition from other candidates, notably Cardinal William Goh of Singapore. Like Tagle, Goh is also Asian and fluent in English, reflecting the Church's growing attention to regions outside Europe. Goh is seen as someone who can relate well to the Church's conservative factions, a talent that Tagle, with his more progressive views, may struggle to replicate. While Tagle's progressive stance is widely celebrated, it also carries significant risks. He has strongly advocated for hospitality within the Church, challenged divisive rhetoric, and promoted inclusivity, particularly in relation to LGBTQ Catholics. At the recent Lambeth Conference, he warned about ethnic and cultural tensions that could threaten the Church's mission and criticized populist movements that, in his view, distorted the true meaning of unity. While these views resonate with progressive Catholics, they may alienate more traditional members of the Church hierarchy. Moreover, critics have noted Tagle's reluctance to take a firmer stand on issues concerning China. The Vatican's relationship with Beijing is a complex and delicate matter, and some believe that Tagle's silence on the issue could hinder his candidacy. Speculation arose that other candidates might be more inclined to directly confront these challenges, possibly gaining an advantage with the cardinals. In addition to these challenges, Tagle's resemblance to Pope Francis has sparked mixed reactions. Analysts pointed out that Tagle's rhetoric often mirrors that of Francis, especially regarding migration and populism. For example, they recalled Francis's comments on migration during his return from Kazakhstan, where he framed it as an opportunity to enrich the cultural and intellectual fabric of the West. Similarly, Tagle has warned against attitudes that could undermine the Church's spiritual unity, emphasizing the need for hospitality and inclusiveness. These shared values have strengthened Tagle's appeal among progressives but have also closely tied him to Pope Francis's legacy, which could be viewed as a disadvantage by some factions of the Church. These groups seem to prefer a leader who can show independence and offer a fresh perspective. Critics also pointed to Tagle's time as Archbishop of Manila, which added complexity to his candidacy. The Manila Standard accused him of drawing the church into partisan politics through his outspoken criticism of former President Rodrigo Duterte. Reports suggested that critics believed Tagle overstepped by allowing politically charged homilies that seemed to challenge Duterte's administration. They argued that this violated the constitutional separation of church and state, raising concerns about Tagle's ability to maintain neutrality. This perception alarmed those who felt the next pope should focus on spiritual leadership rather than political involvement. Tagle also faced criticism regarding his handling of clerical misconduct while serving in Manila. Some claimed he failed to hold certain clerics accountable for their actions, casting doubt on his ability to maintain discipline within the church. This perceived lack of resolve led some to question whether he had the necessary authority and determination to lead the global church effectively. Why did Tagle remain silent about these challenges, and what made him speak up after enduring such struggles? Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle has long been considered a strong contender for the papacy, but his path to the position has not been without hurdles. His charm, experience, and international appeal have earned him much admiration, but critics often wonder whether he can break free from Pope Francis's shadow and establish his own leadership style. These doubts have only grown as analysts scrutinize his views on key issues, such as his stance on China, his progressive image, and his ability to unite a divided church. Tagle's reluctance to take a clear position on China has generated considerable debate within global church circles. The controversial agreement between Pope Francis and the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, aimed at improving Vatican-Beijing relations has faced criticism from those who believe it compromises the Church's principles. Tagle, who shares Francis's cautious approach, has refrained from openly criticizing the Chinese government. Critics argue that Tagle's silence may suggest alignment with the Vatican's perceived leniency toward the Chinese Communist Party. His quiet stance is especially striking given his influential roles within the Vatican. He served as prefect for the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples from 2019 to 2022, and later as pro-prefect of the Dicastery for Evangelization, playing a key role in shaping the Church's global outreach. Despite his proximity to the Vatican-China agreement, he has rarely spoken out about the challenges facing Christians in China. Adding complexity to this issue is Tagle's heritage. A Filipino with partial Chinese ancestry, he comes from a country locked in territorial disputes with China. This background leads some to question whether he would address politically sensitive matters if elected pope. His reluctance to take a firm stance on the Vatican-China agreement has led observers to doubt his ability to confront other geopolitical challenges in the future. His silence was especially noticeable during the trial of Cardinal Joseph Zen, a vocal critic of the Vatican's agreement with China. Though the trial was postponed, Zen's case highlighted ongoing friction between the Church and Beijing. Pope Francis pursued a diplomatic path, even seeking a meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping during a visit to Kazakhstan, though the meeting was ultimately declined. Supporting the Pope's approach, Tagle also avoided commenting on these developments, leading some critics to view him as complicit in a policy seen by others as weakening the Church's moral authority. His alignment with Pope Francis brought both benefits and drawbacks. Tagle often echoed Francis's themes, such as support for migrants, inclusivity, and dialogue, resonating with progressives but potentially alienating more conservative factions within the Church. Some argue that the Church needs a leader with greater independence and a fresh perspective. Tagle's record in the Philippines further complicated his potential candidacy. As Archbishop of Manila, he was accused of dragging the Church into partisan politics by openly opposing former President Rodrigo Duterte. Critics said his homilies sometimes carried divisive political messages, which they believed blurred the constitutional boundary between church and state. Others questioned whether his political engagement detracted from his spiritual leadership. Tagle also faced criticism for how he handled clerical misconduct during his time in Manila. Some claimed he failed to hold certain clergy accountable, raising concerns about his ability to enforce discipline within the Church. Many saw his perceived leniency as a liability, especially for someone seen as a potential future pope. Despite these criticisms, Tagle remained an influential voice in the Church's future direction. His views on the Second Vatican Council earned both admiration and debate. As a contributor to the history of Vatican II, he wrote a chapter analyzing Pope Paul VI's role during the council. While his insights were praised, some critics found his perspective lacking in neutrality. Still, his defense of Paul VI's inclusive leadership reflected his deep understanding of the complex dynamics within church governance. Beyond academic and local church matters, Tagle also had to contend with strong rivals in the College of Cardinals, such as Singapore's Cardinal William Goh, who effectively appealed to conservative Catholics. Goh's ability to unite different factions gave him a strategic advantage. Yet, in the face of these challenges, Tagle's supporters maintained that his progressive values and global appeal offered a hopeful vision for the Church's future. They believed that his emphasis on inclusivity and open dialogue could help guide the Church through global challenges. However, critics argued that he needed to confront his perceived weaknesses in order to strengthen his candidacy. What did Tagle discover, and how did that lead to the major announcement he made? Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, a prominent figure in the global Catholic Church, recently shared an important announcement that followed a deeply personal and emotional realization. This moment of insight, which merged his personal beliefs with his hopes for the Church, sparked widespread discussion. Speaking at a special Vatican assembly, he addressed the urgent concerns facing marginalized communities and emphasized the Church's duty to respond. His announcement came after what he described as a heart-wrenching awareness of the growing hardships endured by persecuted Christian communities worldwide. Tagle reflected on his time leading both the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples and later the Dicastery for Evangelization, where he heard countless accounts of Christian suffering, particularly in places where religious freedom is under threat. This realization led him to take a more active role in confronting these issues. In his speech, Tagle unveiled a new initiative aimed at supporting persecuted Christians across the globe. He presented a comprehensive plan to offer both practical aid and spiritual encouragement, while also pushing for stronger diplomatic efforts to defend religious freedom. Called Faith and Solidarity, this initiative marked a key moment in his leadership and underscored the Church's responsibility to act decisively in times of crisis. Tagle explained that the idea was born from his personal reflections and his visits to regions torn by conflict. He shared a moving story from a visit to a war-affected area in the Middle East, where he met families who had lost everything because of their faith. Their courage and unwavering belief in the face of persecution left a deep impression on him. He described their suffering as a powerful call to action, urging the Church to respond with urgency and compassion. The announcement also revealed a shift in Tagle's approach to some of the Church's more contentious issues. He directly addressed past criticisms of his reluctance to speak out on politically sensitive topics, especially regarding the Vatican's relationship with China. Though he didn't name the Vatican-China agreement directly, he acknowledged the difficulty of engaging with regimes that restrict religious expression. Tagle emphasized that the new initiative would be grounded in transparency and accountability, reinforcing the Church's commitment to protecting its most vulnerable members. Many observers noted that this move marked a departure from his typically reserved tone. Some saw it as an effort to establish a distinct leadership style, setting him apart from Pope Francis, with whom he is often compared. By confronting criticisms about his reluctance to engage with complex political matters, Tagle showed a new willingness to tackle difficult issues, an attribute many view as essential for anyone aspiring to lead the Church. The timing of his announcement was also significant, coinciding with the trial of Cardinal Joseph Zen, a well-known critic of the Vatican-China deal. Although Tagle did not mention the trial, his emphasis on standing with persecuted Christians was seen as a subtle acknowledgement of the Church's obligation to support those who suffer for their beliefs. Skeptics have questioned whether Tagle's initiative will lead to real change or simply divert attention from past controversies. Some doubt whether he can effectively handle the complex geopolitical challenges involved in defending persecuted Christians, especially in countries like China where church-state relations are strained. On the other hand, his supporters praised the initiative as a meaningful step forward. They pointed to Tagle's consistent focus on compassion, inclusivity, and taking action, values that reflect his ongoing commitment to marginalized communities. In his closing remarks, Tagle called for a united global effort, urging Catholics to support the Faith and Solidarity campaign and stressing the need for collective action to help those in need. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out the next video on your screen.